The courtroom was silent, yet heavy with emotion. Cameras flashed as Foolio's cousin took the stand, her voice trembling with every word. "He wasn't perfect," she began, tears streaming down her face. "But he didn't deserve to die like that." Her words cut through the room like glass, and even the judge seemed to shift uncomfortably in his seat. Everyone had come expecting testimony, but what they got instead was a heart-wrenching confession of grief and loss that nobody was prepared for. Foolio's death had already become one of the most polarizing tragedies in hip-hop. Rumors, speculation, and street politics all tangled into one story that never stopped unfolding. But today wasn't about the headlines or the beef. It was about a young man who lost his life too soon and a family still shattered from the moment. They got the call as his cousin's voice cracked, describing Foolio's last moments. The panic, the pleading, the silence that followed. People in the courtroom began wiping away tears. Even the prosecutor, who had spent months studying every angle of this case, couldn't hide the emotion. The reality was raw. The pain, unbearable. Outside, reporters fought to get their mics close enough to capture reactions. But inside those walls, it wasn't about fame or footage. It was about truth and the undeniable sorrow of watching someone's light fade too early. This wasn't just a trial anymore. It was a memorial in motion, and what Foolio's cousin revealed next left everyone in the courtroom speechless. The courtroom doors opened slowly, and a wave of tension swept through the room. Cameras lined the back wall as reporters whispered to one another, waiting for the testimony that everyone knew was coming. Foolio's family had been quiet since his passing, but today, for the first time, his cousin was set to take the stand. The energy was heavy, like the whole building knew this wasn't just another day in court. This was the day someone would finally speak about what really happened in those final moments. When Foolio's cousin stepped up, her hands were shaking. She held a folded piece of paper, one she'd clearly been gripping since she arrived. The defense attorney tried to smile at her reassuringly, but it didn't help. The moment she sat down, the air shifted. Cameras zoomed in. Journalists leaned forward. It wasn't about the case anymore. It was about grief, raw and unfiltered. "I never wanted to be here," she said softly, her voice breaking before she even began reading. "But if I don't speak now, who will tell his story the right way?" The first words hit like a thunderclap. She began recounting the night Foolio died, how she got the call around midnight. Her aunt screaming on the other end of the phone, saying, "They shot him. They really shot him." She paused, her lips trembling, and you could hear someone in the back of the courtroom quietly sobbing. She continued, "He wasn't a monster like they painted him. He was trying to change. He wanted to leave Jacksonville and move somewhere quiet. He told me he was tired of living like that, tired of looking over his shoulder." Her words silenced the entire courtroom. Even the defense attorney, who had been shuffling through papers, stopped to listen. Foolio's cousin looked over at the group of men accused of being involved in his murder. Her eyes filled with a mix of pain and anger. "You took someone's son," she whispered. "Someone's cousin. Someone who just wanted peace." The prosecutor asked her to describe what she knew about Foolio's final hours. Her hand tightened around the paper. "He called me that night," she said. "He sounded scared, but he didn't say much. He just said, 'If something happens, tell Mom I love her.'" The courtroom gasped. She covered her face, unable to hold back the tears. Even the judge lowered his eyes for a moment, as if to give her space to grieve. The defense objected, claiming her testimony was emotional, not factual, but nobody in that room cared. For the first time, Foolio wasn't being seen as a rapper or a name tied to street violence. He was being remembered as a person, a young man who never got a chance to make things right. Outside the courthouse, crowds had gathered. Fans held up signs saying "Justice for Foolio" and "Forever in our hearts." They had been following the case for months, desperate to know who was truly responsible. But inside, as Foolio's cousin spoke, it became clear that no verdict could undo the pain his family carried. "He wasn't perfect," she continued, "but he didn't deserve to die like that. Not in the street, not like some animal. He had dreams. He talked about getting his GED, about helping his mama buy her first house. She wiped her eyes, her voice trembling. But now, all we've got left are memories and his music. That's all. At one point, the courtroom grew so emotional that the judge had to call for a brief recess. Foolio's cousin stepped down from the stand, her legs weak, and collapsed into her mother's arms. Reporters rushed to capture the moment, but the bailiff quickly blocked their view. This wasn't for the cameras. This was pain too deep for headlines. As the court emptied out for a few minutes, whispers began to spread. Some said she was holding back more, that she knew details the police never revealed publicly. Others said she might expose a bigger story behind Foolio's death, one involving names that hadn't been mentioned yet. When the break ended, she stood up again. Her voice was softer now, but filled with determination. "I don't care what anybody says," she said. Foolio didn't go down without a fight. He tried to protect himself. He tried to live. The defense tried to push back, but the emotional weight of her words made it impossible to ignore. Her testimony didn't just move the court, it changed the tone of the entire case. Suddenly, Foolio wasn't just another statistic in a long list of hip-hop tragedies. He was a human being whose story had been twisted and forgotten as the session ended for the day. Foolio's cousin walked out of the courtroom, her head held high despite the tears. Reporters shouted questions, but she said nothing. The image of her walking past the flashing cameras, clutching that folded paper to her chest, went viral within hours. Fans across social media began flooding timelines with tributes, old clips, and prayers. For Foolio's family, it wasn't about fame, it was about closure. But for everyone watching, it was a reminder of how fragile life in the spotlight can be. And as the city of Jacksonville waited for the next hearing, the world was left wondering what other truths Foolio's cousin might reveal when court resumed the following week. The next morning, the courthouse steps were filled with cameras, fans, and reporters before the doors even opened. Overnight, clips of Foolio's cousin breaking down on the stand had gone viral, spreading across every social media platform. The video of her saying, "He told me, if something happens, tell Mom I love her," had been viewed millions of times. People everywhere were crying, debating, and demanding justice. The world was finally paying attention, not just to the case, but to Foolio's humanity. Inside, the energy was tense. The prosecution was preparing to present new evidence. But everyone knew the real story wasn't just in the paperwork. It was in the pain that filled that room. When Foolio's cousin returned to the stand, she looked drained, her eyes swollen from crying. Yet her voice carried a quiet strength. She was determined to speak for her family, for Foolio, and for every young man whose life ended before it should have. "They keep saying he was the problem," she began, glancing at the defense table where the accused men sat cold and unbothered. "But they never talk about the people who wanted him gone. Foolio wasn't out there looking for trouble. Trouble came looking for him." The courtroom stirred. The prosecutor leaned forward, asking her to clarify what she meant, but she shook her head. "All I know is he was scared those last few days. He told me someone was watching him. He told me if he ever went missing, check his phone." Gasps echoed through the room. The prosecutor moved quickly to redirect, asking about Foolio's state of mind before his death. "He wanted peace," she said quietly. "He was tired of beefs, tired of the streets, tired of pretending to be okay when he wasn't. He wanted out." She then described how Foolio had spent his final weekend with his family. He came to the house, played with the kids, joked around like he always did. He hugged his mama tight before he left, told her, "This time next year, we gon' be good. No more stress, no more hate." She paused, the memory catching in her throat. But that was the last time any of us saw him alive. The last time any of us saw him alive. The judge gave her a moment to collect herself. In the gallery, Foolio's mother could be heard softly crying, clutching a photo of her son. The prosecutor continued, asking if she had heard any threats made toward Foolio recently. She nodded. "He told me about a few people who had issues with him. Said some of them used to be close people he trusted." The defense immediately objected, claiming hearsay, but the damage was done. The courtroom had already absorbed the implication. "Foolio, might have been betrayed by someone from his own circle. During a short recess, Foolio's cousin was escorted to a private room. Cameras waited outside the courthouse, ready to ambush her with questions, but security kept everyone back. Inside that room, she sat alone, staring at her phone. Messages from fans and friends poured in, offering love, prayers, and condolences. But mixed in were messages of hate, people accusing her of trying to paint Foolio as a saint. She sighed and whispered, "I'm just telling the truth. That's all I got left." When court resumed, the prosecutor presented a new piece of evidence: Foolio's final text messages. The courtroom hushed as the messages appeared on the screen. The last text Foolio sent before he died read, "They still following me? I'm not scared, but if I don't make it, tell Mom I love her." The same words his cousin had testified about. The room froze. Even the defense attorney seemed momentarily at a loss. Reporters scribbled notes furiously. This was the moment that tied Foolio's fears directly to his final moments. It wasn't speculation anymore. It was real, as his cousin watched those words appear in front of her. She couldn't hold back the tears. "That was him," she said softly. "That was Foolio, brave, but broken inside. Always smiling in public, but carrying pain no one ever saw." The defense tried to poke holes, arguing that Foolio had been involved in dangerous activities and that he knew the risks. But the prosecution countered with compassion. "This isn't about choices," they said. "It's about humanity. A young man lost his life, and now his family has to live with that hole forever." Back in the gallery, several people began crying quietly. The reality of Foolio's death, stripped to the headlines, and the internet drama hit everyone differently. This wasn't entertainment. It was a family destroyed. As court ended for the day, Foolio's cousin stood outside on the courthouse steps, facing the cameras for the first time. She didn't give a rehearsed statement. She didn't call out names. She just spoke from the heart. "He wasn't perfect," she said, her voice trembling. "But he was trying. That's what people forget. He was trying to do better. And now he's gone." Her words echoed through social media within minutes. Hashtags like #JusticeForFoolio and #HeWasTrying began trending again. Fans posted clips of Foolio's old interviews where he talked about growth, about wanting to change his life, about being tired of losing people he loved. It all felt painfully prophetic now. That night, a candlelight vigil was held outside the courthouse. Hundreds showed up. Fans, friends, family, even people who had once been on opposite sides of his beefs. The air was filled with Foolio's music. And for the first time in a long time, it wasn't about fame or controversy. It was about mourning a life lost too soon. As Foolio's cousin watched the candles flicker in the night, she whispered to herself, "You see, cousin, they finally hearing you." But deep down, she knew the road ahead was long. The trial wasn't over, and the truth was still unfolding. And as much as it hurt, she promised herself that she would keep showing up because Foolio's story deserved to be told, no matter how painful it was to tell. When the courtroom reconvened for the third day, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. The crowd outside had doubled overnight. News vans lined the street. Fans brought posters, and social media influencers streamed live updates from the courthouse steps. Everyone wanted to know what Foolio's cousin would reveal next. Her emotional testimony had already shaken the room. But whispers suggested that she still hadn't shared everything. Inside, Foolio's mother clutched a folded handkerchief, her face etched with exhaustion. The judge called the court to order, and Foolio's cousin walked in slowly, her head bowed but her posture firm. She took her seat, adjusted the microphone, and let out a trembling sigh. "There's one more thing I need to say," she began softly, "because I promised him I would." The courtroom went still. Every eye was locked on her. The prosecutor nodded for her to continue. She opened a small envelope she'd brought with her. Inside was a handwritten note. "He gave this to me 2 weeks before he died," she said, holding it up. "He said if anything ever happened, make sure people know the truth." She unfolded the letter carefully, her hands shaking. He wrote, "I ain't got no beef left in me. I'm tired. I just want peace. I want to move somewhere quiet and live. But if anything happened, tell them I saw it coming." Her voice cracked on the last sentence. The room erupted in quiet murmurs, some crying, some whispering, "Wow." The defense attorney objected, arguing that the letter couldn't be verified, but it didn't matter. The emotion had already sunk deep into everyone's hearts. This wasn't just evidence, it was a goodbye. The prosecutor asked her what she thought Foolio meant by "I saw it coming." She hesitated, then said, "He told me people he used to trust had turned against him. He said he felt like there was a setup coming, that someone close wanted him gone." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Some of the accused looked down, avoiding eye contact, while one of them shook his head nervously. Foolio's cousin continued, tears running down her cheeks. "He told me not to worry, that he was going to be careful." But how do you be careful when danger's already in your circle? The judge called for order as murmurs grew louder. Outside, journalists were already typing furiously, sending updates to their editors. The world was watching this unfold live, a family's pain, a rapper's haunting final words, and the chilling possibility that his death wasn't random. The prosecutor presented a timeline of Foolio's final hours, security footage showing him leaving a recording studio, stopping at a convenience store, then being followed by a dark vehicle moments before the ambush. The courtroom grew eerily silent as the footage played on the screen. You could hear his cousin softly sobbing as the lights flickered across her tear-streaked face. When the video ended, the judge allowed her to step down. But as she walked past the defense table, she stopped, turned, and stared at the men accused of being involved. "I hope y'all can sleep at night," she said, her voice steady despite her tears. "Because we can't." Not since that night. The courtroom was stunned. Nobody spoke. Even the bailiff seemed frozen for a moment. Then the judge ordered a short recess to regain control. But the damage was done. The emotion in her voice had pierced through the legal formality. This wasn't about technicalities anymore. It was about humanity, loss, and betrayal. During the break, reporters rushed to the hallway, sending live updates and interviewing bystanders. Some said it was one of the most emotional testimonies they'd ever seen. Others speculated that this case could change the way the public views violence in hip-hop, that it wasn't just about rap beef anymore, but real lives, real pain, and families left behind. When court resumed, the prosecutor gave a closing statement that echoed through every corner of the room. Foolio wasn't perfect. He had his struggles, his mistakes. But he was a son, a brother, a cousin, and he deserved a chance to live, to grow, to change. No one has the right to decide when someone's story ends. Foolio's cousin sat quietly as the statement ended, staring down at her lap. She had said what she needed to say. There was nothing more she could give. Only the hope that justice would finally catch up to truth. After court adjourned, she walked out into the sunlight. The crowd waiting outside erupted into cheers of support, chanting Foolio's name. Cameras flashed, but she didn't smile. She simply raised her hand and pointed to the sky. "He's watching," she said softly. That night, her words replayed across every major network. Fans shared clips of the trial alongside Foolio's old music videos, turning the comments into a sea of broken hearts and tributes. For many, it wasn't just about the loss of a rapper. It was about the end of innocence, about watching yet another young artist taken by the streets before his time at home. Foolio's mother lit a candle beside his photo. The letter he wrote sat beside it. The ink faded slightly from her tears. "You saw it coming, baby," she whispered, "but we gon' make sure they see it too." As the city of Jacksonville prepared for the verdict, one thing became clear: Foolio's story would not be forgotten. His cousin's bravery had turned his final words into a legacy, and her testimony made sure that even in death, Foolio's truth would echo louder than the lies that surrounded him. Justice hadn't yet been served, but the world was finally listening. If you were moved by Foolio's story, take a second to drop A in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. We're keeping you updated as this heartbreaking case unfolds. Stay tuned for the next chapter. Stay tuned for the next chapter.